When I first started looking into this topic, I'll be honest, the idea that marble could be shaped like clay sounded pretty far-fetched to me. Normally, the process is exactly what we all know it to be. Marble is carved. It's shaped with chisels, hammers, patience, precision, and sometimes months, even years of work. Michelangelo is said to have spent 4 years working on David. That's what art history tells us, and at first glance that explanation seems perfectly reasonable. But when you start looking a little closer at certain sculptures, you can't help but pause, because this isn't just about a beautifully made statue. The real issue is that sometimes the stone doesn't look like stone at all. You see human veins appearing on the surface of marble, and not just random lines. I'm talking about veins that look anatomically correct, the kind you would expect to see on a living body. Hands sink into the skin as if they're pressing into real, soft flesh. A thin veil seems to reveal the body underneath. Stone carved like lace somehow gives the impression of fabric as light as air. And that's where a very simple but uncomfortable question comes to mind. Is it really possible to make works like this with nothing more than a hammer and chisel? How do you show depth beneath a surface with that level of realism? How do you make a material that doesn't bend, doesn't forgive mistakes, feel almost like soft human skin? How do you make solid marble look like transparent fabric? Because marble does not forgive mistakes. Hit it too hard once, and there's no going back. Carve a vein just a little too deep, and it stops looking like a vein. It becomes a scratch. Miscalculate one fold, and the whole illusion falls apart. But in some of these works, that collapse never happens. Actually, it's the opposite. There's an unbelievable sense of ease, as if the artist wasn't forcing the stone into shape, but the stone was somehow naturally becoming what he wanted it to be. And that's what really started bothering me. So I began looking at examples one by one, in detail. And I didn't just pick the ones that were convenient. I looked across different periods, different countries, and different artists. What I found felt like much more than the story of one isolated genius, because the same kind of precision kept showing up again and again. Take a look at Bernini's The Rape of Proserpina. Pluto's fingers aren't just touching Proserpina's leg. They look like they're actually applying pressure. The skin gives way, it compresses, it reacts to the force. You can almost feel the softness of the flesh under his fingers. But of course, what we're looking at isn't flesh, it's marble. And that's exactly where you have to stop and think. How could an artist calculate the way soft tissue behaves under pressure with that much accuracy? And calculating it isn't even enough. He then had to recreate that same effect on hard stone, a material that allows almost no room for error. One wrong strike of the hammer means removing too much material. And once you remove too much, that soft compression disappears and becomes a rough hollow instead. But with Bernini, that doesn't happen. The illusion holds. You see the same thing in Apollo and Daphne. Daphne's fingers turn into leaves. Her hair blends into branches. Her skin begins transforming into bark. The transition between human body and tree form is so delicate that it feels like the transformation is happening right in front of you. This isn't just a beautifully carved statue. It almost feels like command over stone, like the stone is behaving as if it were another material entirely. And with the veiled Christ in Naples, that feeling becomes even stronger. This sculpture, said to have been made by Giuseppe Sanmartino in 1753, shows the body of Christ lying under a thin veil. At first glance, it really does look like there's an actual piece of fabric over him. It's even said that some visitors instinctively want to lift the veil, but there is no real fabric there. The veil and the body are part of the same block of marble, one single piece of stone. And yet, you can still make out Christ's face beneath the veil. You can see his nose, his closed eyes, his lips, the overall expression on his face with startling clarity. The fabric behaves differently over the chest, around the hollow of the throat, and across the knees. In some places, it thickens and becomes opaque. In other places, it thins out and reveals the body underneath. At that point, you can't help but wonder, was the artist only carving a veil here? Or was he calculating both the veil and the body underneath at the same time? Because to create this effect, it's not enough to shape the surface. The body underneath also has to feel like it exists in exactly the right place, at the right depth, with the right proportions. You have to know where the light will soften, where the shadows will gather, and at what point the human eye will perceive it as thin fabric. So this isn't just about art anymore. At some point, optics, anatomy, physics, and engineering all enter the picture alongside artistry. And the hardest part is this: marble does not give you second chances. Once you start working on it, there's no real way back. You're not a painter. You can't just paint over a mistake. You're not a digital artist. You can't hit undo. The moment you remove a piece of stone, that piece is gone forever. And yet, the result is so flawless that you can't see a single trace of doubt in the work. It feels as if the artist never searched, never tested, never made a mistake. Now, to be clear, it's important to say this. There's no question that Bernini, Michelangelo, and Sanmartino were extraordinary masters. There's no way to downplay their talent. But there are certain details where simply saying they were incredibly talented leaves a small gap in your mind. Because this question isn't limited to European sculpture. You find similar precision in other parts of the world too. Look at the marble screens of the Taj Mahal. In the delicate work known as jali, solid marble becomes almost like geometric lace. In some places, the openings are so fine that a single miscalculation could break the entire panel. Look at the hieroglyphs carved into granite at the Temple of Luxor in Egypt. We're not talking about soft limestone here, we're talking about hard granite. And yet the lines are clean, the depths are consistent, and the edges are surprisingly sharp. In China's Longmen Buddhist grottos, thousands of figures seem to emerge from the rock face. They vary in size and detail, but there's still a clear sense of order, proportion, and control. And then there's the Kailasa temple in India, which is something else entirely. This structure wasn't built upward. It was carved downward out of a single mass of rock. In other words, first there was the stone, and then an enormous amount of material had to be removed to reveal the structure inside it. Columns, rooms, reliefs, passageways, load-bearing systems, all of it carved from one rock mass. When you really think about that, it's hard for the mind to process, because this isn't just decoration. There's planning here, there's engineering, there's material knowledge, and there's an incredible level of organization. Of course, there are academic explanations for all of this: human labor, time, craftsmanship, tradition, technical knowledge, workshop culture, methods passed down from generation to generation. None of that is unimportant. But still, when you stand in front of certain works and really try to understand them, there's a small distance between the explanation and what you're actually seeing. As if the methods we're told about may be correct, but somehow don't fully account for the final result. And that distance is what keeps pulling me in. Maybe the real problem is that we imagine people in the past too simply. Maybe we underestimate them. In the modern world, we're so used to technology that we assume people in the past thought in more limited ways than we do. We see them as people working with primitive tools, not as developed or advanced as we are. But maybe in certain areas, they had a much deeper kind of practical knowledge than we do. Maybe they also had the time to think deeply enough, to specialize, and to master one thing in a way that's almost impossible today. Maybe the things we try to solve with machines, they solved by knowing the material incredibly well. Maybe they understood how stone breaks, how it shines, how it holds light, and how it reacts along each vein far better than we do. Maybe what was lost wasn't just a technology. Maybe it was a way of seeing, a language of craftsmanship, a relationship with stone. But even then, some questions refuse to go quiet. Why didn't these techniques continue? If this knowledge was passed down from generation to generation, why do we see so little of the same effect today? Why do modern sculptors, despite having far more advanced tools, still struggle to create a marble veil as convincing as Sanmartino's? Why does it sometimes feel like they don't even have the capacity to attempt it at the same level? Why does the effect Bernini achieved, making marble look like soft flesh, still seem almost unreachable today? The answer might be simple. Maybe changing artistic tastes, economic conditions, material preferences, and education systems made that tradition harder to continue. Maybe works like these were simply extremely rare moments of extraordinary mastery. Maybe humanity will never be able to reproduce them again. But still, you can't help asking, how does such a high level of technique disappear over time instead of moving forward? In the normal flow of life, we assume knowledge accumulates, tools improve, new methods are discovered, education develops, access to materials becomes easier. Today we have computer modeling, diamond-tipped cutters, precision measuring tools, and 3D scanning systems. And yet, if some ancient works still make us ask, how did they do this? Then there's something here worth thinking about. At this point, some researchers have explored very different possibilities. There have been claims about plant-based mixtures that could soften stone, traces of vitrification on surfaces, and unusual workmanship details on ancient structures. Stone walls in South America, Egyptian monuments, the quarries of Aswan, and granite surfaces in Cusco often come up in these discussions. Some researchers have suggested that stone may have been worked in ways different from what we usually assume today. Some of these claims have not been accepted by academic circles. Some haven't been proven well enough. Some have been considered speculative. And honestly, this is where we have to be careful, because it's easy to explain every impressive ancient work as lost technology. But that doesn't mean it's always true. Sometimes the answer really may be patience, mastery, and years of accumulated experience. But even so, one fact doesn't change. These works are still standing in front of us. They're not theoretical. They're not legends. You can see them in photographs, museums, public squares, temples, and churches. You can examine them up close. And the closer you look, the more astonishing certain details become. Marble compressing like flesh, stone thinning like fabric, millimeter-level consistency in granite lines, massive structures carved out of a single rock mass, similar precision appearing across continents. None of this on its own may lead to a definite conclusion, but when you look at all of it together, it creates a powerful question in your mind. Could we know less about the past than we think? Maybe when we look at history, it's not enough to ask, what was made? Maybe we need to take the question, how was it made, much more seriously? Because most of the time, in museums or history books, we're told the name of the work, the date, the artist, and what it represents. But the technical process is often passed over very quickly. It was carved from marble, and that's where the explanation ends. But sometimes that's exactly where the real issue begins. How was it carved? In what sequence was the work done? What tools were used? What mistakes were made? How were those mistakes avoided? How was that level of precision taught? It's not always easy to find satisfying answers to those questions. We know a lot about Michelangelo, his letters, commissions, disputes, patrons, projects, but we have very limited detailed technical records explaining, step by step, how he made marble feel so alive. Bernini's workshop produced countless masterpieces, but today we don't have a complete workshop manual explaining exactly how he created that soft flesh effect with such perfection. And we still don't fully know how Sanmartino made the veiled Christ so convincing. Art historians describe these works. They describe them with admiration. But sometimes the technical side gets buried under that admiration. They say, "This is an extraordinary example of mastery." And they're right. But that sentence doesn't fully answer the question, how? Maybe that's why these works are still so powerful, because they're not just beautiful, they also resist explanation. When you look at them, you admire human genius, but you also feel the limits of what you know about history. On one hand, you say, a human being made this. On the other hand, you can't help asking, but how? That tension between the two is what keeps these sculptures alive. At this point, some researchers look at the bigger picture, not just the sculptures, but also the massive buildings, city plans, huge civic structures, complex water systems, stonework, and architectural details that appear around similar periods. Some interpret this pattern as evidence of lost civilizational knowledge. Others go further and bring up controversial ideas like Tartaria, and this is where we really need to be cautious. But one thing is certain, these sculptures still make us ask questions, and maybe that's exactly where the power of a great work of art comes from. Centuries pass, empires collapse, cities change, technologies evolve, but we can still stand in front of a marble statue and think, how did they really do this? And maybe the bigger question is, what else from the past have we looked at without ever truly understanding? Because sometimes history isn't only found in books. Sometimes it's hidden on the surface of a stone, in the place where a finger presses into marble, in the face visible beneath a veil. And maybe our job isn't to jump straight to final answers. Maybe it's to look a little more carefully, to ask a little more honestly, and to accept that the past may be deeper than we think, because these sculptures are still there, waiting quietly. They don't just want us to admire them, they want us to really look.